Okay, we're going to get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Choosing Your Ladder, the first webinar in our Ladder Safety webinar series in partnership with Werner. My name is Nikki Bartoloni, and I'm here from the American Ladder Institute. I'll be passing things over shortly to Michael Melton, Director of Product Management, Climbing Products at Werner, who will lead today's presentation on Choosing Your Ladder. Before we begin, a few quick introductions and announcements. For those of you unfamiliar with the American Ladder Institute, commonly referred to as ALI, it is a not-for-profit association dedicated to promoting the safe use of ladders. Its members are affiliated with the ladder and ladder component manufacturing industry, and ALI is the American National Standards Institute approved developer of ladder safety standards. Each March, ALI and its partners sponsor National Ladder Safety Month, a campaign all about promoting the safe use of ladders both at home and at work. This year is the 5th celebration of National Ladder Safety Month, and we are excited to bring you this series of webinars covering how to safely choose and use ladders. Partnering with ALI for this series is Werner. Werner actively advocates for ladder safety and accident prevention through their range of innovative product solutions, in-person training, and online educational programs. That's why Werner has partnered with ALI to bring you this 4-part series of webinars. Finally, before I pass it over to Michael, we will be taking and answering questions throughout this presentation. Please use the Q&A tool on your screen to submit questions. We will also leave room at the end of the presentation for any follow-up or remaining questions. If you can move to the next slide, I will introduce our presenter for today. Michael Melton is the Director of Product Marketing Climbing at Werner. Michael is a degreed engineer with an MBA from the University of Illinois at Chicago, who has been developing products globally for over 20 years. He's a Chicago native and a diehard Bears fan. Michael has been with Werner for the past 4.5 years, and today he will be walking us through how to choose the best ladder for the job at hand. Take it away, Michael.
Thank you, Nikki. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience today and kick off Ladder Safety Month. So really excited about this. So today, as you mentioned, we're going to talk about how to choose a ladder. As many of you, I'm sure, who are attending this have thought to themselves, am I using the right ladder for the job when I'm looking at this wide assortment of ladders that are out there? I've got a slide here that really starts to go through and show you there's quite a variety, right? In the upper left-hand corner here, there's a fiberglass step ladder. Right next to it is a newer design called a 3-in-1 ladder. Below in the lower left, there's a multi-ladder. And next to that is an aluminum 3-in-1 ladder. And then we have some traditional extension ladders off to the right. So which one are you supposed to use for which job safely? We have a link down at the bottom that will bring you to our website. There's actually a presentation there that's going to go through a lot of the same material that we're going to cover here today and a lot more. So you might want to jot that down. It's Werner. It's www.wernerco.com/climbing-pro. And I'll reference that again towards the end. So the first thing you want to do when you're looking at choosing a ladder is you want to start with your surroundings. So will you be doing the work indoors, or are you going to be outside? Will you have something to lean the ladder up against, or do you need a freestanding ladder in the middle of the room? Answering those questions will start you in the right direction. So for example, if you need a freestanding ladder because there's no surface to lean up against, then you'll most likely choose a step ladder or other freestanding ladder to complete that job. If, however, you do have a wall to lean the ladder up against, you could choose an extension ladder for the job. It all really starts with your surroundings and the type of work that you'll be completing. So I've included some basic reach heights as well. You can see there under step ladder, we talk about the reach height being less than 20 feet, and on extension ladders with the height being a minimum of 15 feet. And that really comes down to the types of ladders, the sizes of ladders that are available. So step ladders tend to be limited as far as how tall they can get, and extension ladders tend to be limited in how short they get. So when you're thinking about that, these are general rules of thumb, but if you're looking for a project that's above 20 feet, you're probably not looking to use a step ladder. And below 15 feet, you're probably not looking to use an extension ladder, for example. So to understand the height of the ladder needed, you first need to know what height you must reach to complete the task at hand. Once you've measured the height of the surface you're working on, say it's 10 feet off the ground, you're ready to proceed. That 10-foot measurement, by the way, is what we would reference to when we talk about reach height. That's the height that you need to be able to get to be able to accomplish whatever task it is that you're working on, whether you're painting or you're installing some equipment. Different types of ladders have different rules about what the highest rung or step that you can stand on, and that's called the highest standing level. It's really important to understand what the highest standing level is for the type of ladder that you're working on so that you can remain safe. So for example, if you determine you need a step ladder for the job because you need a freestanding ladder, again, you're looking at your surroundings, and then you need to know that the highest step that you can stand on a step ladder is 2 steps below the top, or approximately 2 feet below the top of the ladder. This helps prevent people from losing their balance and falling when they're standing on the step too high. It's not allowed, you're not allowed to stand above that surface on a traditional step ladder. So the top step and the very top of the ladder are not areas that you can stand on. You need to know that to be able to safely use a step ladder. On an extension ladder, the highest you can stand is the 4th rung from the top of the ladder. And again, we'll cover this again as we walk through this, but you need to know that you can't stand higher than the 4th rung on an extension ladder, which is approximately 4 feet from the end of the ladder.
Michael, we have a question if we can go back to that last slide.
Yeah.
If you do not have an extension ladder, can you use a step ladder in the closed position and lean it against the surface?
So that's a good question. In a traditional step ladder, the answer is no. A traditional step ladder is not allowed to be leaned up against the surface. I will be showing you a ladder in a couple of slides that's designed to be leaned. That's what we refer to as a leaning ladder. Those ladders are designed to have the front and the rear sections locked together. And they also have pads on the top so they don't damage the drywall or whatever it is that you're leaning it up against. It's important not to just lean a typical step ladder because number one, it doesn't have the surface on the back to protect the wall and to grip the wall. And number two, the rear legs can slide out from under you, which can cause you to fall to the ground. So traditionally, you do not want to use a leaned step ladder unless it's designed for that. Any other questions there, Nikki?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, great. So a little more about step ladders. So when you look at a step ladder, they're named for how tall the step ladder is. So when you look to the top of the step ladder, the approximate height off the ground is typically what that is called, or the ladder size. So a 6-foot step ladder is approximately 6 feet tall. So when you look to it and you're looking for one, they have 4-foot step ladders, 8-foot step ladders, 6-foot step ladders. Those are how tall it is to the very, very top. Then knowing the rule about being about 2 feet below the top of the step ladder, we know the highest standing level for a 6-foot step ladder is about 4 feet off the ground. Okay, so you can stand about 4 feet off. Earlier, we said, let's assume you need to reach a surface 10 feet off the ground. So to determine if you'd be able to reach that surface, you need to be able to figure out what we refer to as your individual reach height. Your individual reach height takes the highest standing level of the ladder and then adds your height plus 12 inches of your arm. So let's go through that with a quick example. Assume you're 5 foot 6 inches tall, and that means your max reach would be 6 foot 6 inches tall just on the ground, because we assume you've got about a 12-inch reach above your head. So 6 foot 6 inches if you're 5 foot 6 inches tall. If you're standing on a 6-foot step ladder that has the highest standing height, 4 feet off the ground, then you add the 4 feet to your 6 foot 6 inches that we just calculated, and now you know you can reach to about 10 feet 6 inches. So in that case, you would be able to do that job that requires you to reach 10 feet on a 6-foot step ladder. So it's just a matter of going through and doing a little bit of math and understanding how tall you are to be able to determine what that reach height is that you can achieve. Now, there's a table there on the slide that talks about maximum reach height. Those are approximations. You're going to hear that all the time, maximum reach heights based on the ladder heights. So you'll see calculations done for you. Those are approximations. If you know how tall you are, you can go ahead and figure out your individual reach height. But in that table right there, you can see a 6-foot step ladder maximum reach height about 10 feet. So you can use that for that application. Now, step ladders do have limitations, like we mentioned before. They're limited in size. They only get to be so big. So again, if you're looking for a project that's above a 20-foot reach height, that's a very large ladder, and you'd probably want to consider a different type of ladder for that particular application. Something I wanted to point out here are there's different types of step ladders that are out there. So if you're going to work from the same height often, then the best option for you might be a ladder like the Werner Podium, which is what's shown here over on the right. It has all the benefits of a step ladder. It's a freestanding ladder. However, the step that you're standing on is a large platform. So you can see the difference here between a more narrow 3-inch traditional step on the left versus a large platform that you can stand on. They are at the same height, so your reach height is the same. But if you're going to stand there for a long period of time, it's much more comfortable to stand on a platform. It will avoid a condition that sometimes people refer to as ladder foot, which is basically a sore foot that you're going to get from standing on a narrower step for a long period of time. So these platform ladders or podium ladders are great options if you know you're going to be working at a particular height for a long period of time. The other nice thing is you can see it's got a guardrail that's 34 inches off of the deck surface. So it helps protect you, gives you that much more level of comfort when you're standing up there and doing the work.
Michael, we have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on a podium ladder, can you face in any direction on that platform?
You can. Yes, that's a good question. That's right. You can stand up there and you can rotate around to be able to work in multiple directions. In a traditional step ladder, you're going to be somewhat limited in the directions that you can work, because you always want to maintain 3 points of contact, which is usually your 2 feet and then your body leaning up against the ladder, or a hand on the ladder. So you always want to be able to maintain that 3 points of contact. So a podium gives you a little bit more flexibility because the rails are actually kind of boxing you in a little bit, and it provides a little bit better protection for you when you're up there. It's a great question. Anything else on the podium?
No, I think we can move forward.
Okay. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about extension ladders. So we addressed step ladders, and I think that's pretty well understood. If you're in that situation though where you need to get higher and you have a surface that you can lean up against, an extension ladder is an excellent option for you to choose. Now, again, if you want to choose an extension, you need to know that you can't stand above the 4th rung up from the top of the ladder. That's the maximum you can stand to. This helps prevent the user from putting too much weight on the very top of the ladder, which prevents the ladder from sliding out from under the user. So the same math is going to apply when you look up the height of the highest standing level, which is that 4th rung from the top, and you add your individual reach height. That will help you determine your max reach height for that particular ladder. Now, extension ladders also require some support points, some considerations to where you're leaning it up against. And so the table here that we've got gives you some more guidance. So again, we have the ladder height on the left, just like you had on the step ladders, showing you approximately your reach height. And it's it always seems a little bit odd when you look at these, because you've got a 16-foot ladder, but you can only reach 15 feet with a 16-foot ladder. But it's because exactly what you can see here in this image, this individual is standing 4 feet down, and then they can reach up above. So it's a little bit misleading from how that is, but there is a chart that will show you the maximum reach heights for each of these based on that highest standing level. The other thing to point out over here on the right is the height to a gutter or a support point. You're going to want to make sure that you have, and the graphic on the right shows you a little bit of that too. You're going to want to have support points that you can lean up against so that you're not going to tip the ladder over. You don't want to have the support point so low on the ladder, for example, when you're standing very high on it, that it starts to tip past that support point. So a couple things to consider then with extension ladders when you're setting those up. Now, this ladder is one that I referenced earlier. You asked about step ladders and whether or not you can lean against a wall. This ladder is a newer style ladder, and this would be a 3-in-1 ladder, or it's our Lean Safe X3 ladder, which is basically 3 ladders in one. However, that middle position is a leaning ladder, and so You can see on the far left, it's shown as a step ladder that's going to function traditionally as a step ladder. And again, you can stand to that second step from the top. When it's in leaning ladder mode, it's functioning more like a straight ladder. You can only stand from, again, it's like the fourth step from the top is where you can stand on this one. And then when you have it as a straight ladder, you can get up one rung higher. So those are the things that you should consider when you're looking at a 3-in-1 type ladder, or if you have a ladder that is a leaning ladder that maybe doesn't do all three of these, it'll still follow the same rules as that middle one, where you're going to want to still be 4 feet down from the top of the ladder. These are all defined by the ANSI code and OSHA rules. So we just want to make sure that everyone clearly understands that. And that type of information is also on the ladder ID labels that'll be on the side of the ladder. We'll talk a little bit about those in just a few minutes.
Hi, Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
When do you not recommend to secure the base of extension ladder with skate? Painters are constantly on and off.
I think that you have to make a determination as to how secure the bottom section of the ladder is. Obviously, if you are on any type of surface that's not going to allow you to dig those feet in, for example, if you're in a pick position, they can dig down to the ground. If you're just using the rubber pads underneath, and you're on any type of a surface that has any concerns around evenness or how slippery it is, you're going to want to block down the bottom of the ladder and secure it. You're also always going to want to use what we refer to as the fireman ladder setup, where you stand with your feet on your toes to the front of the extension ladder and lean it up against the wall. You need to be able to extend your arms fully in front of you with the palms of your hands touching the rungs. So if you can stand the ladder up with the bottom of the ladder at your toes up against the wall and the palms of your hands when your arms are fully extended, touching the rung in front of you, that means you're at the proper setup angle. Sometimes people set these ladders up either too steep, which you run the risk of it tipping back, or more often they set it up very shallow because they expect, or it's more comfortable. It feels more comfortable when they're at a very shallow angle, but that's when you run the most risk of the ladder slipping out. So we always recommend setting up with that proper setup ratio. And then obviously you'd want to make sure that the bottom ladder is secure.
Okay, and then we have another question on the leaning ladder that's on the slide. It says, are the feet on a frame ladder the same angle as the leaning ladder pictured?
Say that again?
Are the feet on an A-frame ladder the same angle as the leaning ladder pictured?
So the bottom of the feet of this ladder, it has a little bit of a curvature to it. So it's designed to be working at a couple of different angles. So it is a little bit of a different angle, but there is some curvature at the bottom of the feet that allows it to work and has passed all the code testing and slip testing and all that at the various angles that you're going to have it set up.
Great. I think we have one more, sorry. Is it the 4-to-1 ratio whenever you're on an extension?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, great questions. Keep them coming. Love hearing the questions there. Okay, so here I wanted to talk a little bit around about the duty rating of a ladder. So, you know, we talked about your environment. We talked about the height that you need to be able to get to, your reach height. How do you calculate that? We really want to talk about how heavy duty of a ladder do you need. ANSI defines this as 5 different codes. You have a light duty ladder or a type 3, that's 200 pounds. A medium duty type 2, that's 225 pounds. A heavy duty type 1, which is 250 pounds. Extra heavy duty, which is a type 1A, and that's 300 pounds, and special duty, which is a type 1 AA, and that's 375. So when you're looking at this, it's not only your weight, it's also the weight of your clothes, your tools, and your equipment that you're going to be carrying on the ladder. So it's a combination of that. So whenever you're looking at these, and I've got an example on the next slide, we'll go through that, but think about what are you going to bring up and what might you bring up, even if you're not using it in this particular instance. If you ever use it where you have to bring something that weighs a little bit more, you might need to step up to the next duty rating on the ladder type when you're purchasing those.
I have, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have another question. Are duty ratings indicated by the color of the ladder, i.e. blue for 250-pound load capacity?
That's a good question. So for Werner ladders on a fiberglass ladder, and we'll talk about material in a little bit, but yes, the ladders are, the blue ladder would designate a 250-pound. The orange ladder would designate a 300-pound, and the yellow ladder would designate a 375-pound ladder. That is traditionally how it's done, and many of our competitors have also followed suit there. So I wouldn't say it's always the case. You should still always reference the ID label that's on the side of the ladder. That'll tell you the specific duty rating, but oftentimes that is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so here's an example. So I wanted to show you how to calculate the duty rating. So in the example above, you would choose a 250-pound type 1 ladder, because if your body weight was 200 pounds and you're going to carry a box filled with tools that maybe weighed 335 pounds, your total weight is 235 pounds. So it's too heavy for a 225-pound ladder, so because you're at 235. So you're going to want to go up to the next level, which is 250 pounds. What we included over on the right is just some common weights for different things, just so that you can think through that, so that you can identify what might you carry on a ladder. So a ceiling fan, right, approximately 30 pounds. A garage door opener, maybe about 40 pounds. You're going to bring a bundle of shingles up on the roof, 70 pounds. So you got to think about what it is that you're carrying and your own body weight in order to be able to determine what is the right duty rating for the particular ladder that you're going to select.
Okay, we have another question. Can you choose a duty rating that is higher than you need? Why would you or would you not do this?
Okay, yes, that's a good question too. So yes, you can choose a duty rating that's higher than what's required. And what you're going to find is that the stiffness of that ladder will increase. So what I mean by that is you're going to feel less flex on the ladder when you're climbing. The key thing to consider there, and you might want to do that because you might in the future need it for something that you might need it for a different job that requires you to lift more. But even if you want to do it just for your own comfort in climbing, you will get less flex out of the ladder if it's a higher duty rating ladder. The only thing I want you to keep in mind though is that the weight of the ladder will generally go up, and the cost of the ladder will generally go up. So the cost and the weight generally follow the duty rating, because that changes the thickness or the reinforcing parts that has to go into the engineering of the ladder, because it needs to be able to support more weight. So absolutely you can, just keep in mind that it does generally increase the weight and the cost of the ladder. So it's always best to choose one that's close to what you need.
Okay, and we have another question. Can you carry something up a ladder while maintaining 3 points of contact?
Can you carry something up a ladder? I'd say the answer is yes, but it depends on how you're going to hold that. You're going to need to be able to maintain your feet on the ladder and one arm on the ladder. So you're not going to be able to bring something up where you're carrying it with two hands at the same time. So that would be the limiting factor, is you'd want to have something you can put over your shoulder or you can hold in one hand, or obviously people wear tool belts and whatnot. You're not going to want to you're not going to want to climb without being able to have that third point of contact. If you have something that's large and awkward, it might be helpful to have a second person with you to be able to climb something. So you might actually need to set up a second ladder nearby so someone else can help you lift whatever that might be, so that you can remain safe when you're lifting it.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure. All right, so we talked about the surroundings, we talked about the style of ladder, the height of the ladder, we talked about the duty rating of the ladder. Now what we want to talk about is the material choice. Okay, so we want to look at fiberglass versus aluminum. So how do you choose? Why do you pick one or the other? And I'd say the material choice really circles back to the original question that we asked: what are your surroundings like? So initially we asked to determine if we needed a freestanding ladder or if we had a surface to lean against it. And now we're looking for what hazards might be present, right? Especially electrical power. You know, the two main materials that you're going to find are going to be aluminum, and you're going to be fiberglass. And those are the things you're going to want to keep in mind. What hazards might there be? Because each of them have an advantage. However, they're ideally suited for different applications. So I'm going to flip through to the next slide here. So aluminum ladders, both steps and extensions, and a lot of these other form factors come in both materials. So you can get them as an aluminum ladder. You know, as you see above, the key advantage of an aluminum ladder is they tend to be lightweight, and so they're easy to transport and set up. That's going to be one of the biggest advantages of an aluminum ladder over a fiberglass ladder, is that ability to easily move them and set them up. However, some job sites require you to use a non-conductive ladder type like fiberglass. So you need to know, again, your surroundings, whether or not there's anything, it says right there at the top, not for use near electricity. Even if you might not be on a job site that has any electrical work going on, you still want to check and verify whether or not you're allowed to use aluminum, because a lot of job sites will just say, no, you cannot use an aluminum ladder because of the risk of something happening that could expose you to electricity, and the ladder is conductive. So if you look here and you're looking at a fiberglass ladder, fiberglass is a very strong and durable material, and the rails have the added advantage of being non-conductive. So when you're looking at a fiberglass ladder, it might, if you're on a commercial job site, a lot of times it's the only choice. If you're going to be using this ladder for a wide variety of activities, which often includes, you know, working on electricity, you're going to want to have a fiberglass ladder. The other advantage is, and someone referenced this earlier, is the colors. They tend to come in a variety of high visibility colors, so that you'll be able to clearly see them on a job site. So I think that's another advantage. And earlier we were asked the question about, you know, do the rail colors mean anything? And again, for the Werner ladders, the fiberglass ladders, they do. Again, it's the blue is the 250 pound, the orange is the 300 pound, and the yellow is the 375. There's also a green. Green is the lowest at 225. So I mentioned before that you can go through and find all this information on a ladder. What you want to look for are these ladder identification labels, or ID labels. And there's some examples there on the left-hand side of the screen. This is what every ANSI certified ladder is going to have. You'll find the highest standing level, you'll find the ladder size, you'll find the duty rating, and more clearly printed on this label. It's required by code to be on every ladder, so you will always find it. If it's not on the ladder, it should be replaced, so that you can replace the label so that the information is there. And it's required to be in a highly visible location. So usually what that means is that it's going to be at eye level on the side of the ladder, so that everyone can find it. I've got some pictures there off to the right that show exactly that. You can see that it's basically going to be around eye level on either an extension ladder or a step ladder, so that it's easy to read. And again, the pictures on the left-hand side there, you can see the 6 foot shows the 6 foot ladder size. The color of the yellow or the orange is, again, back to the 375 or a 300 pound ladder. So all the information is right there and clearly visible for you to reference whenever you're looking at a ladder.
Hey, Michael, we have a question about labels. How do you get a replacement label?
So replacement label kits are available. You'd want to reach out to the manufacturer or your distributor, depending on where you're getting the ladders. A lot of times distributors will have them, or you can call our customer care, and we can get ladder replacement kits, ladder label replacement kits sent out if they've been damaged or torn off.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, sure, absolutely. So again, just kind of going back over what we looked at here, when you're looking to try to choose what's the right ladder to use, you want to choose the type of ladder based on the environment or the surroundings, right? Does it need to be a freestanding ladder? Do you have something to lean up against it? You want to choose the ladder height based on where you need to reach. And then you need to remember those rules about how high you can climb. And again, the side of the ladder, that ID label is going to clearly tell you that information. So you'll be looking for either the highest standing level or you'll be looking for the max reach. That's going to give you the clues for how tall you or how high you can reach when you climb that ladder. You want to choose the strength or the duty rating of the ladder based on your weight plus the tools or equipment that you need to carry. Very important to think about the jobs you're going to do with that ladder so you never find yourself in the situation of trying to carry something that's too heavy up on top of a ladder that's maybe not the right duty rating. Then you want to look at the material based on the hazards that are present or the rules for your particular job site. Aluminum, lightweight, easy to move around, excellent material. And it comes in a variety of duty ratings, so you can still get the strength you need out of aluminum. However, if you're on a commercial job site, oftentimes you need to go fiberglass. If you're doing jobs that are around electricity, you want to be able to buy a fiberglass ladder. So you want to pay attention to your surroundings and the hazards that might be present. And reference the ID label on the side rail for all the information that you need. Always look to the ID label whenever you're going to use a ladder. It will clearly tell you everything that you need to know about that ladder and whether or not it's the right ladder for the job. Lastly, always be safe. Read all the related safety labels that are on the ladder. They're there for your protection and education. And so you always want to do that anytime you pick up a ladder to use it. Lastly, I referenced in the beginning the website, again, www.wernerco.com/climbing-pro. If you click on that, you're going to be able to get right to a downloadable PDF that's going to have a lot of this information and a lot more content in there. So I really would recommend people going there and taking a look.
Okay, I know we are a little out of time, but we have some questions. So some of the ladders come with black plastic top caps and some with aluminum top caps. What's the difference?
Okay, good question. Usually an aluminum top on a ladder is more durable than a plastic top on a ladder. And so those they're a little bit more specialized. Those would be typically on your 375 pound, although you can get a plastic top that's qualified for 375. So really it's just about your preference and what you're going to use it for. They're both qualified to work at the particular duty ratings that their ID label says that they will work at. One thing to note though, I would say is that typically a plastic top is going to have more spots for you to put equipment and tools than a metal top. And that just really comes to how easy it is to form and mold plastic. So that's just something to keep in mind. You're probably going to have some more storage on a plastic top than you would on a metal top.
Okay. And then do you recommend replacing worn rubber feet or replacing the whole ladder?
I think that it depends on if you have a qualified service that can come out and do the work for you. You want to make sure that whoever is doing the work to be able to update components on a ladder or doing repairs on a ladder are qualified to do that work. So you'd want to make sure that you're using a certified company that's doing it. I would not recommend doing it on your own. I think that is something that you'd want to have an outside service come in just to make sure that they go through not only the point that you're noticing that's worn out, they probably want to do a full ladder inspection to be able to verify that there's nothing else that you've missed during your ladder inspections and general maintenance with the product.
Okay, we'll just do one more question. Can you be cited by OSHA for not having the ladder label?
Yes. Yes, you want to put ladder labels on your product, and you want to ensure that they're legible. That's going to be the key thing. Is number one, that they're there, but number two, that they're legible. So what I've seen on job sites is paint, right? If paint is all over the label and you can't read it because most of it is covered by paint, that's not acceptable. It's there to be read so that you can, someone who's not, maybe doesn't know how to use the ladder, they can read the instructions, they can read the warnings. That's what the intent is. So it has to be legible and they do have to be present.
Okay, and one more, I apologize.
Okay.
What's the best way to care for fiberglass ladders exposed to weather?
The best way to care about, it's actually a great question. We have a technical guide for fiberglass ladders that's available on our website. So if you go to that WernerCo.com and you look under, I believe it's under literature, you can find a document. It's a technical document about fiberglass, and it'll tell you more than you ever wanted to know about fiberglass and fiberglass ladders. So I think that's a great reference to go to. Obviously, you know, and anything wears in UV and in inclement weather. So the biggest piece of that is always doing your ladder inspections and making sure that your product is still holding up every time you're ready to use it. But I would go to that fiberglass technical manual and download that and read through it. It's got some great information on how to care for fiberglass.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for this great presentation. If we can move to the next slide, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Before you go, the next webinar in our ladder safety series takes place next Tuesday, March 9th, and we'll focus on safety before the first step, how to correctly inspect and set up your ladder. You can register for this webinar at laddersafetymonth.com under Participate Scheduled Events. You will be receiving a quick follow-up survey of about 8 questions. If you can take a few minutes to provide your feedback on today's webinar, that would be greatly appreciated. And if we move to the last slide, please take note of the URLs on your screen. You can find more ladder safety resources, including free online training, a recording of this webinar later this week at laddersafetymonth.com and laddersafetytraining.org. If you have any questions for us at ALI, please contact us at info@AmericanLadderInstitute.org. Thank you, Michael, for this great presentation, and happy National Ladder Safety Month, everyone. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Nikki. Great to be here.